to attend our Clicks, Channels, and Customers PPC for Hotels webinar. I am Sarah Linton from Milestone Internet's Chicago office, and I am the moderator for this webinar. The presentation will reference the hotel industry, but will highlight information any digital marketer will find useful. A few quick things before we get started and waiting for the last-minute attendees. We have muted everyone to avoid audio disturbance, but we definitely do want to hear your opinion. So if you have questions as we go through the presentation, feel free to ask them using the GoToWebinar box in the upper right-hand corner. And we'll address the questions at the end of the webinar. If the time is running tight, we will answer the questions in our blog, where this recording will also be stored. And without further delay, let's begin. A big thank you to our sponsor, eCornell. eCornell is a subsidiary of Cornell University and offers programs including hotel finance, sales leadership, and marketing. eCornell courses are all developed by Cornell University faculty and often include practical insights from industry experts, including Milestone. First on our panel will be Professor Bill Carroll. He's a clinical professor of marketing at the Hotel of the School Administration Hotel and a recipient many times of Teacher of the Year. Additionally, he is a CEO of Marketing Economics, a consulting firm specializing in the travel industry. Next is Krista Malchow. She is Milestone's Regional Business Development Manager for New York, Pennsylvania, and Vermont. Krista joined Milestone last year and since has heavily increased client interest in paid search field and keeps building on her software background. Next, we begin introductions for our Chicago office with Betsy Conway. Betsy is the Director of Client Services, and I'm sure there's a few people on the call today who are familiar with her. She has been in the digital hospitality marketing industry for nearly a decade. Betsy specializes on branded properties and paid search here at Milestone. And last but not least is Lucy Schweitzer, Director of Paid Marketing at Milestone. Lucy strategizes search activity and analyzes click and booking paths to conversion. She enjoys this almost as much as watching the Green Bay Packers win. So let's cover the agenda today. We will be highlighting the basics of successful paid marketing campaigns. Everything from how much your marketing budget should be allocated to paid search, to which devices and channels you should choose, and what you should know and expect of your paid search agencies. It's not a static relationship. So let's begin, Professor Carroll.
All right, thank you. The first slide we see is information from Focusrite. And in a phrase about what's going on in the industry, it's all positive. We see gross domestic product growth in most of the developed nations around the world. Hospitality is highly positive to online, as indicated in this graph, where approaching the United States, almost 50% is booked online. And in fact, I'm familiar with Focusrite, and that probably understates to some extent the number of bookings made online by corporate booking engines, as well as some of the group bookings. And frankly, in the rest of the world, there's a significant room for growth. So, in fact, if one were to look online, rather than book online, I'll bet it's closer to 100%. And moreover, any of you using Google funnel analysis will see how significant, in terms of the clickstream behavior before booking, the search and meta search is. And on the next PowerPoint, and then again thanking Focusrite, what we take a look at is the rate of growth. And the rate of growth in terms of online bookings and online penetration is nearly double that, the growth of the hotel marketplace overall. And now, with the next slide, I want to talk just a little bit about how much a property might want to spend on search marketing. At a very high level, research done by PKF Consulting in the United States has quantified the amount of spending on marketing in general to be anywhere from 6 to 9% of total revenues, and that varies by quality or type of property. But that doesn't even include things like merchant margins that you pay for the OTAs, which in some sense has immediate impact, nor does it include chain fees that might be paid that include marketing. So we can see it's a sizable amount of revenue. Research done by Max Starkoff, who runs a firm that represents a large number of independent properties, and Focusrite, with whom I work, and I've seen study by other entities, suggests that the percent of mix of marketing, which is digitally related, is probably close to 70% on average. And moreover, if we take that 70%, somewhere between 40 and 60% of that is associated with search or paid search. So in a phrase, the search world is in a growing hospitality market, in a market which is increasingly moving to digital and is increasingly influenced to book and booked online. So in a word, it's a great place to be. And so I think as you think about this presentation in the long run, you need to ask yourself some questions. Are we spending enough or too little on paid search? And how should revenue management be linked? How do we make sure that there's a conversation going on between these two components of the organization and they're not in silos? And third, we believe that there's a link between generic search words and brand search words. In fact, we're doing some work with Milestone now to analyze that correlation. And so being careful about that selection. And finally, location and locale is important as we hear more and more about mobile in subsequent presentations. It's a great place to be, and I'm glad to be part of this conversation.
Thanks, Professor Carroll. This is Lucy Schweitzer here. I'm going to build on a few of the points that he just made, specifically mobile. One of the top trends in paid search right now is that mobile is becoming an increasingly important channel for advertisers. 60% of the world population now has a mobile device, and they're using them at an unprecedented rate. And advertisers are really taking note of this market shift. Mobile ad spend in 2015 is estimated to be $35.5 billion, and is projected to grow to $60 billion by 2017. This is an incredible amount of money being funneled into the mobile advertising space. And if you aren't playing in this space now, you will be eclipsed by your competitors. It is essential that your site is properly set up to receive these high levels of mobile traffic from your advertising, or the money you spend there will just be wasted. You also have to allocate your budgets properly towards mobile devices to account for this shift in traffic. We recommend starting off allocating at least 40% of your budget to mobile to take advantage of the traffic volume, and then adjusting over time as you monitor the traffic patterns between devices. Lastly, it's important to target your message specifically to the user on a mobile device. Mobile is all about the exact location of the user, direct intent, and urgency. You want to make sure that your message reflects that whenever you have a touch point with that mobile user. I would say the most important thing you can do with your paid search campaigns is to bid on your brand name and brand location terms. This sounds like obvious advice, but it's surprising how many clients we see that aren't doing this when they first contact us. Many clients think that because they appear in the first position for organic listings on their brand terms, they don't need to bid on these terms in paid search. What this doesn't account for is competitors bidding on your brand terms, which happens very frequently. In the hospitality industry especially, we see OTAs bidding very aggressively against both each other and the brand owner to try to maintain that #1 ad position. You want to make sure that you have at least a 90% share of voice or higher in the top ad position on your brand terms, so you aren't losing a significant amount of revenue-driving traffic to your competitors. One other topic these days that's incredibly important is social. A social presence for your company is non-negotiable. This includes familiar channels like Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. But how you implement that presence can provide you with some excellent data for optimizing your paid search campaigns. Studies have shown that consumers who are exposed to a brand's social media content are 2.8 times more likely to then search on that brand's terms. If you find that your social presence is a bit small, you can always consider running something like Facebook ads to increase your social penetration of the market. A larger social presence from those ads would allow you to take greater advantage of the effect social has on search volume. You can also analyze the data that your social presence provides to better optimize your search ads and keywords. For example, you can monitor what content on your site provides the most social shares, indicating that that's what your customers are interested in. You can then tailor your search keywords and ad copy to be relevant to that content. I'm now going to hand it off to Betsy, who's going to run through a few more key elements for your paid search campaigns.
Great, thanks. So a couple other points to keep in mind here. When we're referring to paid search, it's really a phrase that can be loosely tied to several different marketing channels, each of which have their own benefits. PPC, pay-per-click, paid search, all the same thing. This includes bidding on specific keywords in the search engines to try and capture people based off of what they're searching for, their search intent. You can also target them by geography and then show them a text ad. The next channel is display. This allows you to show graphical ads to people based off of keywords, site content, and search intent. Display can also include retargeting or remarketing, both of which are pretty much the same thing. And it's the act of showing graphical ads to people that have at some point already interacted with your business, perhaps by visiting your website. The social channel allows you to serve both text and or graphical ads to people based off of very specific demographical information, psychographical information, and search intent. And then finally, we have meta, which is increasingly becoming more important here, and allows you to display rates to people when they're in the final phases of the purchasing process or the buying funnel. Now, given all these number of channels, it can definitely be a little bit overwhelming, but it's important that you select the right mix of them in order to help you achieve your business goals. So, for example, are you just trying to create awareness or generate demand? If so, then perhaps display in the social channels are probably best suited for those needs. Or if you're trying to drive business for a specific segment or get people to convert on your site specifically, then meta and paid search are probably best.
So now that we've learned some of these basic things, I'm going to talk more about incorporating paid search into the customer journey, which is really important when we're looking at paid search because you can reach a potential guest at any point during this journey. So inspiration is really the first step, and this could happen through a friend's Facebook page, for example. They see a trip and some pictures, or on the branding sense of Facebook ads. So the inspiration can happen really on any sort of social channel, and this leads to the research phase. So where they want to stay in a particular location or what they want to do, which is the second phase. And this research is really the sweet spot for paid marketing conversions. Customer begins searching with short tail keywords such as New Orleans hotels and progress to long tail keywords such as Bourbon Street hotels with balconies. A solid paid search plan can cover all facets of the research phase. And you want your business to show during both of these search terms. So if you're not ranking organically, you can always do this with paid search. If you're working with an agency or prospecting one, they should come up with geolocal, long-tailed, non-branded keywords to capture this research market. After the research phase, this then leads into the booking phase, which, as mentioned before, some may think that paid marketing is sort of useless, right? But you want to make sure you're buying your branded terms, especially as an independent hotel, or if you're a brand looking on channels where your brand currently isn't managing or buying out your brand name. Otherwise, as mentioned before, OTAs and similar companies will 100% be bidding out your brand name and driving customers to those sites. So I encourage you to, do a Google search, look on Google Hotel Finder, look on Trip Connect, do branded searches on Google, Yahoo, and Bing, and see if you're coming up first, if you're coming up at all, and who else may be buying out your branded name. Additionally, after somebody has booked, what about those couples or people who are now looking for a dining option and they haven't even considered eating at your 4-star restaurant? You can target consumers with restaurant paid search ads after they've booked at your property. Additionally, target them to bring them back to the property next year. So now that you're thinking about doing paid search, what do you need to know and what should you ask your agency? Really, PPC thinking about or prepared to answer for a potential agency if you're looking to go that route is understanding your target audience. Who are they geographically and demographically? Do you have any international sales, or is there an opportunity to drive more international traffic? What is your OTA mix? If it's really heavy on OTAs, your goal may be to drive more traffic away from those and directly to your website. If you're currently running PPC, your prospective agency should want to know what your return on ad spend currently is and what channels you're running on and the sort of return you're seeing on each channel. Along with this, what is your monthly budget? Are you spending $1,500 a month, $5,000 a month? And then your agency should be thinking, okay, based on your market, maybe you should be thinking about spending this amount. But the company should be forthcoming overall with their management fees. I see this a lot of times when I'm talking to people. They are spending $2,000, $1,500 on PPC, but they're not sure which percentage, if it's a percentage, are going to management fees and how much is actually going towards media spend, which you really want to know. Additionally, on top of this, what kind of support are you going to get from the company? Is it going to be monthly automated reports? Are you going to have an interaction with a paid search manager? Is it going to be consultative? And do they have diverse channel offerings? As we saw in some previous slides, there's so many different places that you can be, and you want to make sure that you're getting on the right channels. Hopefully they're not just doing AdWords, and it may be appropriate for your hotel to be on Bing or Yahoo or capitalizing on some of those meta channels as well. Additionally, what other goals does the property have sales-wise? It's always great, and I love hearing conversations with some of our paid search managers on the accounts that we have where properties are bringing up ideas or questions they have. Can we incorporate this? Can we do that? And that's how it should be. It should really be a balanced approach of being a consultant and also working with your budgets and the current constraints that you have. So after you've gone through all those questions and you took a deeper look at the sales process, you should also ask for a portfolio of clients to review their ads and their process. You should really demand to see more than just desktop and Google ads. On top of that, you also want to make sure that you or the prospective agency has enhanced ads, because this is where you're going to see the best return. So things like, is there a clear call to action? Is there a click-to-call button? And if you can, have a local number. Have site link extensions. The location should be clearly listed, as well as incorporate reviews into the ad as well. Just sort of another test, I would encourage you as well to just sort of do a search, not as necessarily looking for your brand, but which PPC ads really resonate with you. And they're going to be ads with more information, reviews incorporated, things like that. Additionally, PPC is so flexible, you can constantly test it. It's not a set it and forget it type of thing. You can test different ad copy, different offers, different pricing, test different channels, test mobile and desktop, and this will help you start to understand your audience more. What works on different channels and how can we target better? And really with today's consumer data tools, you can create very targeted messages through content, strategy, and device. Additionally, also ask to see some of their reporting. How frequently will you get these reports? This is just an example of Milestone report card, which clearly tells you the status of your channels and ads, along with recommendations. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. It should be much more extensive as well, sort of digging into those ad copies too. And finally, I wanted to share with you a case study that we have. We had a client acquire an independent New York City property in October of 2013, and they renamed it. So paid search was really pivotal in the rebranding process and generating revenue. 2014 for them was definitely continue on the branding and focusing on conversion channels. So running on places like Google, Bing, Priceline, Expedia, Facebook. And we suggested the addition of Bing because the average cost per click is lower than on the Google display network. One of our foundations is to lower the cost per click without sacrificing revenue on any channel. So in this particular case, we reduced their average cost per click in Expedia from nearly $2 down to 50 cents by the end of the year, while increasing their return on ad spend and revenue from about $3,000 a month to right under $20,000 a month. Overall, we lower the cost per click if we're reaching the budget before the end of the day. And this sort of reiterates the fact that you need to be actively engaged, as should the agency, with the account. Noticing trends and proactively strategizing with you is the key to seeing the highest return on your ad spend. I also want to note that these figures do not represent the estimated phone revenue. We do track it, but we just wanted to highlight the actual click revenue, and these numbers are outstanding for New York City.
and Lucy and Professor Carol for your time today and insights, and obviously our sponsor, eCornell, as well. Once again, everyone on the call, please use the upper right-hand comment area to continue asking your questions. It does look like we will have time today to cover the questions, so that's great, so keep writing them in. In the meantime, please take note of our March webinar topic and know that you can always stay on top of digital marketing trends by following us socially. We have the blog as well where this recording will take place and additional questions you have. So it looks like we have one question, and it's a question about why a customer is not seeing their paid search ads when they do a search for them. So this can be related to many different things. I'll go through a couple of the top things that we frequently see. So if you do a search and you're not seeing your ads, most frequently we see that it's due to budget. If your daily budget is not large enough to capture 100% of the daily search volume, you just need to increase your budget. So if you have a small budget that's trying to be split over a month, it's possible that your daily budget, maybe runs out by 10 in the morning. So if you wanted to see your ads all the time, you would have to do a budget increase. There's also the possibility that your ad rank is low. If your average position is low, you wouldn't be able to show for 100% of the searches. So you'd have to consider making some bid adjustments or possibly driving to a more relevant landing page. Another problem that we see occasionally is that there's just low volume on the search terms. If you search on a really specific term that you know is in your account, if you're the only one searching on that, search engines will stop showing ads for terms that have little to no search volume. So that could be happening. One other thing that occasionally happens, if you're constantly searching for the same keyword over and over and over, the search engines are smart enough to notice that someone's doing that, and they'll exclude your IP address to prevent click fraud from happening. So if they see that a lot of searches for one keyword are coming directly from one IP address, they'll exclude your IP address and won't show you those ads anymore. So those are just a few of the most popular reasons that people aren't seeing their ads. There's a few more more involved ones, but those would definitely be the top ones that we would check right at the beginning. Sure. Thanks, Lucy. Mm-hmm. One additional question that we have today, actually 2 people wrote in about it. How come I only see my competitors' ads? That's a great question. Betsy, do you want to take a stab at it?
Sure. So what I'm guessing you're probably referring to is often you'll see ads from the same brand kind of follow you around on the internet. A great example of this is perhaps, I'll take one from the non-travel industry, but Nordstrom's. Let's say you go and you browse and look for a dress online, and then you start seeing ads following you around with that same dress. Nordstrom's does a great job. Amazon does a great job. Crate & Barrel do a great job of this too. And increasingly, the travel space is getting more involved with it. So what's going on is most likely remarketing. So what's happened is from visiting that site, you most likely had a pixel dropped, which allows those brands to start following you and serving remarketing ads. It's a really good way to kind of increase engagement and keep them top of mind for you. And it's something that we suggest hotels do as well. If you guys aren't doing it and your competitors are, you guys can be missing out. So just something important to keep in mind, as you're considering which channel to run from a paid marketing perspective.
Great. That makes sense of why Disney was following me after Christmas this year.
Right.
All right. Today, just to reiterate, this webinar will be posted on our blog. It will be Milestone. There is the link. And so if any of you missed it or any of your friends have missed it, please alert them. It will be posted by the end of the week. We will be also emailing you the link to this webinar and the recording as well. I want to go ahead and thank you for sharing your time today. I hope you have a great rest of the day and the week. We strongly start urging you to implement money. Your delay